Hey guys, it's the Relationship Hub with the smart couple. Has it not been so amazing to you, the recent increase of domestic violence that you've been hearing lately? I mean, with all the, the videos that has gone out in the world, with all the many things that has happened to people, it still amazes me that people still become abusive, and then there are also people who still stay in the abuse.
Yeah.
So today we want to talk about, why are people so abusive? Why do people do these horrific things to other people?
Yeah. One of the reasons why some people are abusive in relationship that they get into, it's because that's what they've known.
Yeah.
And that's a model that was set for them. And some of them grew up in a home where they see their parents being abusive to one another, either physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So they grow up and just believing that that is the way to go.
Yeah.
It's a normal thing. And what have been normalized to you, it's just easy to practice.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
When people grow up in an abusive home, two things happen. Some will say, okay, I don't want to allow my children to go through what I went through.
Yes.
And some will say, some will later see it as it's a normal thing. And 70 or 80% of children that grew up in an abusive home, they replay or do the same thing in their own relationship because they feel it's normal. It's just like 20% that goes the other direction and say, okay, I will not allow my children to go through what I go through. So for me, I feel that it is so important to address, and when you are trying to go into a relationship, you just know, why am I doing what I'm doing, or why is this person doing what he's doing? What is his past? What is his? How did he grow up? That could help you to a great extent to know who this person you are getting into a relationship will do. Absolutely.
And just peradventure, you're out there and you're one of that persons who grew up, seeing abuse being modeled to you. That's a fantastic legitimate reason, or because you could say, well, that's all I know, but the truth of the matter is, whatever is learned can be unlearned.
That's right.
So and at this point in your life, you know that being abusive is wrong. Being abusive is not an acceptable way of living. So you can no longer sit down as a grown person and say,
justify what you are doing.
Yeah, that's how my mom did it, or that's how my father did it. You now owe it to yourself to be better. So you can unlearn. So there's no excuse anymore.
Yeah.
Legitimate experience, yes. But the excuse, no.
Yeah.
No more excuse to justify, being abusive.
That's true.
So another reason why I feel people are abusive is because they feel that need to exercise power. And I say this because a lot of people who, when you ask them or when you dig into their lives to kind of see, what's behind this mindset of the abuser, when you look back into their life, you can see that there's been that point in their life where they were starved of freedom.
Right.
They were starved of having any kind of power or choice in their life. They were so restricted, and all they've been praying for is, if I can just get out there, if I can just have my own thing, if I can just be my own person, I'm going to be in charge, I'm going to be in control, I'm going to put things together. So many times it's because they feel the need to exercise power, because they've never had the opportunity to exercise power, because they've always been under the shadow, under the control of someone people else. And so some people actually enter into marriages or into relationships simply because people marry for different kind of reasons, right? But some people enter solely for the fact of exercising power, to have a domain where they can just be the Lord and the master, and anyone who stands in their way is kicked to the curb or slapped back into their place.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why, just because they want to feel that control, and they don't know any other way to exert their will without being abusive,
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Let's just clear this, because sometimes when we talk about abuse, some people think that we are only talking about men that abuses women.
Yeah.
There are so many women that are very abusive in their relationship.
Yeah.
And abuse comes in different ways. When you put someone under emotional torture, you can be abusing someone emotionally without physically touching the person.
Yeah.
But the person is living under an abusive environment.
Yeah.
And I have seen situations where some men are scared to go home because of the emotional abuse that they are receiving from home. Nothing demasculates a man than like talking down on them or emotionally torturing them. You understand what I'm saying? So let's not get it wrong when we are addressing these issues. Abuse is everywhere. Abuse comes from the male, comes from the female, and if you fall into any of these categories we are talking about, we really want you to look into it instead of trying to defend your position. Please feel free to reappraise yourself and learn from what we are saying today. Yeah.
And I think just for, I'm glad that you kind of brought that up just to kind of balance everything and kind of clear the air. Some people may not really know what abuse is. So some people may be getting abused, but they may not even know
that they are being abused.
That this is abuse, because they feel like abuse is did the person hit you? No. But I feel like abuse is any situation, any circumstances where you are hurt, where you can no longer thrive in, where you feel choked, where you feel threatened, where you don't feel safe to express yourself, express your thoughts. That's an atmosphere of abuse. Anything that restricts your humanity, that restricts your freedom, that restricts the value that God has given to you, that's an abusive atmosphere. So
that's true. Anyways, another thing that causes abuse is sometimes some cultural or social practices. There are some culture where they just believe that it's just a norm that a man has to beat a woman if you don't do well. I remember many years ago you did a video where you painted your face.
I was just going to talk about that.
You saw how the response, over 40,000 views, and there were a lot of response. And some people, and funny enough, the response, the defense was not even coming from.
The defense was coming from the attack.
Was not coming from the men. It was coming from the women. Hey, if your husband don't beat you, doesn't love you, a woman should, a woman should learn.
Is that a cultural thing, or is that just a mindset?
Yes, because
of trauma.
I would think it's because it's a culture. What's a culture? A culture is what is generally accepted in an environment. So in most culture, it is kind of accepted, or it's an acceptable norm.
And we're not going to put any country on the map right now.
No, let's not put any country, because it happens in different places that we don't. So anything that is accepted as a norm, that if you bring it up, people don't frown at it. People say, and what about that? So, are you the first to be beaten by your husband or by your wife? So in situations like that, so some of this culture could be a result of some people's action, why they beat their spouse, or why they lay hands on their spouse, or why they are be abusive to their spouse. That if you allow this person do this thing, it will just do this, it will not respect you, so put them in their place. And it's what is being practiced in some places. So that could be a reason why some people get into abuse and also allow abuse.
Because truly speaking, like some cultures may not necessarily permit you to, so I know there's some cultures that if a man lays hands on a woman, I think there's penalties. So they have to go to jail or do one thing or the other. But there's some, so talking about that, the cultural, mindset that fosters abuse. It could also be the way so let me give an example, right? It could be the way the culture sees a woman. That they see a woman as just to bear children, to arrange the house, and because of that perception of a woman, the men cannot treat them well, does not treat them well, does not value their voice, does not ask their input. So she's being abused without even knowing that she's being abused, and so they just accept it. But there are some people, like you said, that small percentage who will always feel like, this can be it. Even though it's generally accepted, it doesn't mean that I must follow the crowd because it's generally accepted.
Yeah.
You have a conscience, and culture can your conscience must always trump what the culture is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also some culture where women are really priced high. Women are they put them in a pedestal that's very high, that they dictate the tone, they dictate the pace,
of
and
everything.
so some of them just do things to their husbands or men because they know that the law is on their side. And so they abuse them, and some men are
some men just swallow it.
As they just swallow it, they suffer in silence. The problem with abuse, especially when it comes to women abusing men, is this. Most men cannot confidently come out and say, my wife is abusing me, or my wife is doing this, because it seems like the culture again.
That's culture again,
You as a man, how can you say your wife is abusing you? So
man up.
They end up swallowing it, and they are going through this kind of abuse. So culture have a major role to play in terms of why some people have the courage to abuse their spouse.
Yeah. I think another reason why people are abusive, I think it has to do with very, very poor, bankrupted emotional management.
Oh yeah, that's correct. That one is accurate. Yes, this is where you use your.
I don't know if it is this one yet, but there are some people who are so short-tempered. They have such a short fuse, and I would say this has to have come from the upbringing, right? Because some things can be fixed from a little age. Remember when Misa when Misa was little, and I think what did she do? She was crying, and then did she try to slam the door when she was 3 years old? She slammed the door once, and one beating took that spirit out. Just one good spanking, and that spirit left her, and it never happened again. You know. So I feel because of upbringing, right? I'm not justifying your short fuseness,
right,
but I'm saying this is one of the reasons, the upbringing where there was no discipline,
right,
where there was no teaching on how to self-manage, manage your emotions, manage your hold your body.
Yeah.
And number two, when you grow up, at the end of the day, it comes to growing up. When you grow up, it is your responsibility to manage your emotions.
Right.
And so people can't manage their emotions. And so when they get into confrontation or when they get into a disagreement, whether it's with their spouses, but we're talking about relationship, right? Yeah. So with their spouses, right? Or maybe even someone that they're courting to marry, they feel the best reaction is to either you use your hands or you say words that are even more powerful than a fist.
Spanking,
and they say the words and they flare up, and at the end of the day, they want to apologize, but that's one of the reasons.
I think lack of management, emotional management, actually starts from where you actually said it from children. Some children just do things, and the parents just said, a child is going to be a child. Children will always be children.
Oh, they're going to grow up someday.
You're talking to a little child, is pulling down your TV, breaking it, or breaking something, hitting the door, or just closing the door at you. Shut up, mommy! I don't want to talk to you. And you think it's a child.
Oh,
children are going to be
cute.
children. You are nurturing a monster.
To go deal with somebody.
Up, they are going to do that same thing to whoever they get married to, because they feel that
it was tolerated.
It was tolerated.
Probably
so their
celebrated.
emotions. So their emotions were not well managed, and so some of these people grow up to become somebody's wife or somebody's husband. And they start displaying the same attitude and putting the other person in jeopardy or torturing the other person emotionally or physically.
And of course, I know every human being is a work in progress, right? And some people, it takes a little more time to become mature emotionally. Depending on what the background is, where they're coming from, what they've been exposed to. But at the end of the day, listen, if you're not going to have that kind of flare up when you're standing before your boss, I want to believe everybody has the ability to control themselves. It just depends on who you're standing before and what your perception is of that person. But just in case you don't know how to control yourself, this is the point where we will tell you that there's something called the fruit of the Spirit in the Bible.
it's called a part of the fruit of the spirit. Is one of them is self-control.
Self-restraint.
You can always pray. I think in Galatians chapter 5 verse 22, he said, and the fruit of the spirit are, and he began to talk. And one of them, self-control, meaning that ability to control yourself, ability to control your emotions. Sometimes your emotions want you to throw your fist, and your the self-control will tell you, the Holy Spirit, the fruit will restrain you, will help you to have control over that action or those emotional flair that you want to display.
Absolutely. And just in case you're that person, right, who always gets flared up, when you're in that moment, one of the things you can do is walk away.
Right.
You can walk away.
That's a good one.
If you can't walk away, you're probably in the car and you can't walk away. You might want to park the car and just take a walk back and forth before you get back into the car to drive. Scream in a pillow, go to the room, go talk to God. Just go if you have a punching bag in your house, but not your spouse and not your wall or not your TV, go punch a punching bag, but just excuse yourself out of a situation that will cause that emotional flare up. Yeah. So that way.
Another part of how to handle those emotional, like if you know that you are the type that when you are emotionally high, you can say anything, and that thing can place someone in a mood of confusion and frustration. You know, some people's mouth is sharper than that of
than a two-edged sword.
So if I respond to this situation, I'm going to say the wrong things. Sometimes just be quiet.
Yes.
Don't speak.
Yeah.
Don't say anything.
All right. Another reason why most people are abusers is that feeling of insecurity, right? Because if you want to think about it logically, and I think this has to do with emotional abuse, although this also involves physical abuse, but it's mostly on emotional abuse, right? Most people are abusers because they just want to feel like they are over you. Many people are literally afraid of those that they abuse, afraid of your future, afraid of your prosperity, afraid that if you leave them, they would feel useless because they're going to see you become something. You know, we've seen partners who have gone to kill their partners because when the partner left them, it looked like the partner was prospering. This happened on YouTube. There was a YouTube lady I used to watch when I was learning how to, sew. I'm not going to mention her name. She was dating this guy, and then she left the guy, and I think she became Christian. She left the guy and she married somebody else, and she just blew up on YouTube. And one day she's in bed with her kids, and this guy goes up and unalives her in bed. So, and that's the person stalks her, follows her everywhere. So that's abusive. When you feel like the only way for me to become something is to bring you down, talk you down, tell you how useless you are, how you can never become anything. I'm the best thing in your life after sliced bread. Nobody cares for you. Nobody can love you like I do. And you keep talking them down so that they can see themselves small. This is a strategy. When they see themselves small, they feel like they have to be with you, the abuser, to feel like something. And then the abuser feels, yes, feels amplified, it feels big, and it feels like you need them. And so whatever it's going to take for them to keep you in that way so that you keep needing them and they keep feeling important, they're going to do it. So when a person, be it a man or a woman, is insecure in themselves, that's one big reason, for domestic violence or any kind of abuse. Anyways, that's all we have. And we just want to encourage someone out there. If you are here watching this video and you are an abuser, I'm going to let you have a counsel or two for the abuser.
Well, first of all, I know that there are a lot of people that watches our episodes, but we always say this, that our episodes are based on, they are scriptural based, and I will tell you one of the best way to overcome this is having God inside of you. Letting God be the master of your life, and that it can help you, because you cannot change your natural being without being changed in your spirit. So God can help you. I know that some people might end up saying that, but what about Christians that are abusive? There are, but the point is, for the fact that they are doing it doesn't mean that God have not given them a way of escape.
Yes.
Do you understand? Yeah, God can give you a way of escape to overcome that and become a better you by consistently renewing your mind, like what we talked about in church, renewing your mind through the Word of God. And when you plug into that kind of environment, the Holy Spirit will take over your heart and make you be a better wife or a better husband. That is one of the ways to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was great. I hope that helped you out there. We're going to be continuing next week. That being said, if you want us to be your relationship coaches, the information is on the screen right now. Finally, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, hit the notification bell so that you will be the first to get notified when we post new content. And join our WhatsApp community. It's an exclusive community that will help you in so many ways unimaginable to have a thriving relationship.
Yeah.
We will see you next time.